These are exciting times for everyone involved in the racing industry, particularly up in Brisbane with the upcoming JJ Atkins and also the Straight Broke. It really is their big day to shine, and they always do, Queenslanders. That's what they're extremely good at. But it's great to have everyone's company on this exclusive insight into what's going to be a terrific JJ Atkins and also Straight Broke Day, but also a massive thanks to everybody involved in the miEverest campaign. We've been overwhelmed with the response we've had to miEverest, which is terrific, taking on the big sport of kings, so to speak, all divided into 1,000 units, and they're selling very, very quickly. To go to miEverest.com.au. But a man who's building up to a terrific weekend and is a huge supporter of micro ownership is a legendary Brisbane trainer in Rob Heathcote, who joins us. G'day, Rob.
Yeah, g'day, Terry, and thanks for that glowing introduction.
That's all right. Mate, it is a big weekend. I know you are a massive supporter of micro ownership, and the miEverest campaign has been extremely well supported, but about 30% of the people who have bought into the units and slots have actually come from Queensland.
Oh, that's outstanding news. It's just a wonderful concept, and you know, my first involvement with My Runners has kicked off fantastic. We've got a super filly in Dusty Tycoon, and you know, she's already won a couple of times, and she ran a cracking third at the last run. And you know, we'll talk more about it later, but she's had a little niggling injury at the moment, which is a bit frustrating. But what a wonderful idea, this miEverest. I mean, outstanding stuff, you know, racing at the very, very elite upper echelon. Probably now, TK, I'd say that probably the #1 sprint in Australia now, isn't it?
Yeah, it hasn't got that Group 1 next to it, but I think everyone, including the breeders, are well aware of what sort of impact you have. And yes, I guess showed that last year, didn't it, by winning. We mentioned that it is exciting, isn't it, when the man in the street and the woman in the street can actually take on the Goliaths. When you go through that list of the miEverest slot holders, it's some billionaires and major corporations, and then us, miEverest.
Oh, 100%. And it's something I've maintained all through my career in horse racing. You know, the small owner with a small percent can have just as much enjoyment as the kings and queens and sheikhs that are involved in the industry. And that's clearly evident with the whole concept of My Runners. Outstanding.
It is an exciting time in Queensland, Rob, and you think about this JJ Atkins, it's just what I would call a good horses race. Good horses win a JJ Atkins and normally do kick on as well. This is quite a story behind Rothfire, who is outstanding galloper. But tell us, I believe you bought this horse twice. Is that right?
No, I bought him once, but paid twice.
Even
very, very
very
unusual story, Terry. It's a good friend of mine, Simon Gleeson, and I've been involved with the family. There's mum and dad and the 3 boys out at Chinchilla, a country town, you know, out northwest here of Brisbane. And I've been associated with them a while. We've had a good level of success. And Simon called me one day and said they've got a nice young Rothfire colt that they like the look of him, but he doesn't have fantastic pedigree. But we know that's not always, you know, a necessary ingredient for having a good horse. We've seen so many good horses over the years that not a lot was paid for them. And this is the case here. The sales company's knocked him back. Simon called me and said, would I take him? And I said, well, does he have 4 legs and a tail? He said, he does. I said, that'll do me. How much? He said, 10 grand plus GST. Not a problem. So the next day, Simon sent me an invoice and I promptly paid it, as I do with all my accounts. And 3 weeks later, Simon called me and said, we still haven't received that money. And I said, well, I sent it. I printed out the invoice, sent it to Simon. He said, they are not our bank details. So the money, no doubt, went to bloody Nigeria or some other storm on the planet, North Korea or anyway. So I paid it again. So, so I had to pay for him twice. And then I had the horse relocated from the Gleeson family, started Chinchilla to Kevin Thomas at Washpool Lodge. Kevin's a renowned horseman, does a lot of work for me. And then I threw him up on my website. He was up there for 3 months, pretty much unsold. Yeah. Sold a few shares to some clients, existing clients, and then a bunch of young guys and their friends and mums and dads in a couple of cases, 20 of them actually. gave me a call and said, how much is left? I said, well, there's 80% left. They said, oh, we'll take the lot. I said, whoa. I want a little bit here. I did that with Buffering. I owned 100% of him and got rid of all bar 5%. He won 7 million. I got that one wrong. I'm not going to do the same again. So my wife kept 20% in him. And
yeah. So what was it that, when you first, the thing that fascinates me, they all look beautiful to me, Rob, right? I haven't got an eye for a horse. They all look magnificent beasts. What was it about Rothfire, and what is it that impressed you? And when did you first know, you had a bargain buy?
That's the wonderful thing. Good question, TK, because that's the wonderful thing with young horses. Yet you don't really know. You can look at them as physical specimens. Yes, scopy, leggy, deep girth, long rein, nice walk, athletic walk, nice overreach, good conformation, all of these things that you can say help you make the decision. But in this case, I just took a punt. Simple as that, because he wasn't an expensive horse. And I pop out to Washpool Lodge once a week just to have a look at the horses, have a word with Kevin. And Kevin was breaking him in and said, gee, I like the way this horse moves. He gives a good feel under saddle. The riders like him. He's got a beautiful nature. He's a lovely, kind horse. But you still don't know. I mean, I use the analogy of old Forrest Gump. They're like a box of chocolates. Until you take the wrapper off the chocolate, you don't know which one you're going to get. And that's pretty much the case with juveniles. And we bring them into our system. And it's funny, Melanie Webb, who rides for me, she rides a lot of the babies when they first come in. And she said to me, I really like this horse, but he's got half a square wheel. He's one of those horses that he doesn't have a beautiful, smooth gait in his action. And Webby got to know him, and then on the odd occasion, another rider would ride him and say, oh, Rob, get the chiropractor or the farrier, there's something wrong with this horse. But there wasn't. It's just his action, and he's even a little bit like it now. It doesn't affect him running. And then I suppose to further answer your question, when did we know we had something that was very good, was pretty much the first time we gave him a gallop. He does it so effortlessly. He covers the ground. He's got a lovely long stride. And I did something, Terry, I don't normally do with young horses. I tend to, I suppose, consider myself a conservative trainer of juveniles without pushing them too hard and too early. You make a little mistake with a 2-year-old and it can cost you 12 months. If they're not quite ready, if their knees are not developed enough, they're skeletally, they're strong enough. Muscular development is also important. And there's another key aspect, I guess, and that's mental development. But this guy's just been such a cool dude, so relaxed from day one. I gave him a 400-metre jump out on a Friday here at Eagle Farm, as I do with all my youngsters. Generally, we give them 2, just to teach them to go into the machines, the barriers. We bang and crash on the gates to try and get them used to the noise. He jumped out and just went whoosh, like an Exocet missile, straight up the straight. He won by 6 or 7. I went, wow. Then I said to Jordan, who rode him, one of my staff, he said, Rob, bomb-proof, never did a thing wrong. So on the Tuesday, there were trials at Dooman. So we did this on the Friday. On the Tuesday, I said, well, I'll put him around in an 800-metre trial. Wow. He won that by 8 or 9. Never did a thing wrong. And I looked at the racing calendar and I said, well, the following Saturday week, there's a 2-year-old race over 1,000 here at Eagle Farm on his home track. But before I go there, I'll take him down to Deagon, just to float trip away, just to further the experience, 650 metres. And again, he sizzled. And that was the day Jimmy Byrne was there. Jimmy hadn't sat on the horse prior to then. And I said, Jim, I've got a nice 2-year-old. I think you'll like him. Well, we jumped him out over 650. He won with his head on his chest and never even got his heartbeat above, 120. Jimmy came in and went, don't take me off him. Love him. He moves great. So we ran him on the Saturday. He got into a fist fight with Steve O'Day's nice filly called Got a Kiss, who'd already had 1 start for a good win. And he got off the canvas and beat her. And since then, the rest is history. So far, with just the 6 runs for 5 wins and a good second. So it's been a good story.
We'll keep those fingers crossed. We're lucky enough to be chatting with Rob Heathcote, who's got a red-hot chance going to the JJ Atkins come the weekend, and also the straight rope, by the way. And he's giving us a little bit of an insight on this exclusive webinar about 2-year-olds, what you look for, and if they can train on as 3. To tell you the truth, Rob, I'd be happy if I had a 2-year-old like Rothfire, but it's even better, isn't it, if they can develop from their 2-year-old year, become a 3-year-old and really stamp their authority on the field. Does Rothfire give you, what sort of indication do you look for from a 2-year-old that might kick on, and is Rothfire one of those who could kick on?
Good question, TK. Probably, obviously, ability. You know, that's the number one thing they need to have. And I'm fortunate to have had the experience with buffering, because he was a very, very good 2-year-old. He won his first 4, and then he ran 3rd in a group race, the Champagne Stakes, actually, which Rothfire won 2 weeks ago. Ability 1, temperament. I believe the really, really good horses need to have that Group 1 temperament, I like to refer to it as, and Rothfire certainly ticks that box. And I suppose physical scope. I mean, already this young horse has done some pretty good things on the racetrack, but in winning the Champagne Stakes 2 weeks ago at Doomben, he actually ran a faster time over the 1200 metres than the group, the Victory Stakes, which is won by Victorium and Nicanova and Deep Image, as you said, is in the Stradbroke. So he didn't race against them, but the clock very rarely lies. He ran a faster overall time, leading, doing it first up when he's fresh. However, to get back to your question, what do they need to do to go to that next level? And I said to the owners of Buffering when he was at the same stage as a 2-year-old, we gave him a spell. I intend to embark on a similar path with Rothfire, and that's head down to Sydney for the better races and ultimately on to Melbourne. But, you know, with the COVID-19 situation, races are not locked in date-wise and whatever. But I said then Buffering needs to improve. He needs to physically develop as well as mentally. And he needs to find another 2 or 3 lengths. Well, I was fortunate with Buffering because I put him in a race you know well, the Roman Consul, which has been won by some of the best horses in, you know, recent Australian racing history. And when he won that day, Nash Willa rode him for me, and he got off and said, "You've got a beauty here. You possibly have a Group 1 horse." And it was when I took him down to Melbourne. He ran 4th. I made a mistake, Terry. I took him down to Sydney for a race called the Danehill Stakes. He ran 2nd to a Godolphin horse. I think it was called Soul. Can't remember. And then I went back up to Sydney for the Brian Crowley. I made a mistake because there wasn't a race in Melbourne for a month. I would have been better off leaving him in Melbourne, giving him a nice barrier trial, and then going into the Coolmore. But I didn't want to do that. So he went up to Sydney, back down to Melbourne. He ran 4th in the Group 1 Coolmore, but Hugh Bowman got off that day and said, "Rob, you've got a Group 1 horse here." So that's the development the horse made in a relatively short time from the time he turned 3 in August through until mid-October. So a very crucial 3 months in his life. And as we now know, with this Everest concept and miEverest, the Everest is run in the spring now. So this is a time that the 3-year-olds, as we saw last year, and yes, if they can make that necessary physical and mental development, and they already display Group 1 ability, which I hope to confirm on Saturday with Rothfire, then, you know, happy days.
Well, for all those people who have already bought in, and the hundreds and hundreds have already bought in their unit slot for the miEverest, they should be keeping a really close eye on Rothfire, because if it can make that development, we know that yes wasn't taken until 9 days before the Everest actually was run and won by that particular horse. So could Rothfire kick up and, you know, be good enough to have a slot in the Everest, the miEverest slot in the Everest?
Well, it's the stuff that dreams are made of. I mean, I'd like to think so. But as I say, you know, maybe the first part of that journey begins this Saturday in the Group 1 JJ Atkins. You know, if he's got Group 1 next to his name. For those of you who are not sure what the real status of a Group 1 means, let me again go back to Buffering and use him as an example. He competed in 35 Group 1s in his career. 35. It's an Australasian record. He won 7 of them, was placed in about 18 others, and he took the owners on a magnificent journey that lasted for over 7 years. But once you reached that status of Group 1, and that's why winning this race on Saturday is so important to us. It's literally a ticket in every Group 1 for the rest of his career, if you want. I know it's not always going to be like that. You have to have run horses in races to get them ready for certain races. But, you know, if he was to tick that box on Saturday, have a spell, because that's where he'll go straight after this race on Saturday, and come back with a view to coming back down your way, Terry, and running in the Roman Consul, or the San Domenico first and then the Roman Consul, maybe the Coolmore. But if he was winning those races like he's been doing so far up here, then maybe Rory and and Lizzie and the team might select him for the Everest here. That'd be some journey.
That's right. We've got a great panel together to help that selection process for the unit slot holders. That is Lizzie Jelfs, Ty Anglin, Mark Waugh, and also Daniel O'Sullivan. So they'll be watching Rothfire very, very closely. As I mentioned, it's a good horses race.
Mate, well, actually, Terry, it's Daniel O'Sullivan who is such a well-respected ratings analyst in Australia. I know of Daniel. I've never personally met him, but he tweeted out, and some of the owners of Rothfire sent me his tweet. When Rothfire, I think, won his first or second race,
that's right,
he tweeted out, "This is a serious racehorse," and he gave him a rating that tempted us a little bit to consider the Golden Slipper. But that was pre-COVID-19 and the travel and all the rest of it. And I elected to stay back here because I didn't want to travel him that early in his career. But, you know, Farnham, as we know, is probably the number 1 3-year-old in the country. But I think Daniel's rating's got Rothfire 103. I think he might be in the second or third line.
Rob, another great thing that the people who get involved with the miEverest campaign, and they can hopefully now be there on Everest Day, with owners getting in this weekend, actually down in Sydney, which is a big thumbs up. Again, Peter Volandis doing an enormous job to keep racing on track and then promote owners to get back on track as well. When you think about Rothfire, and it's all about taking people on the journey for miEverest, if you get involved with miEverest, so go to miEverest.com.au and you can buy your share and maybe have a runner, or will have a runner in the Everest this year, or in fact next year. No, it's this year, October 17, of course. Mate, it's all about listening to people like Daniel O'Sullivan, Lizzie Jelfs, yourself, Mark Waugh, Ty Anglin, and you go along for the journey. You also get to vote, which is pretty cool as well, about what horse should be filling your slot.
Oh, Terry, you use a key word there, and this is a word that goes out to everyone. It's not all about one race. It is a journey. But from the moment we get these young horses and we take them on this career journey, and yeah, there are some highs which make it wonderful, but there's also some lows as well. That's part and parcel of racing. And the fact that, you know, for not a lot of money, you can buy a unit in such a concept and be part of racing at the absolute highest echelon. It's just such a fantastic concept.
It is. There's no doubt about that. Before we get off Rothfire, how far does he win by?
Wow. I'd love to be as confident as you, mate. I mean, put it this way, I was just interviewed on local radio, and they asked the same question, you know, do you think he can win? I said, well, if you ask the 17 other jockeys, I think most of them would rather be on my lad. I know Jimmy Byrne's super confident. 1,400 metres, yes, that's an element of doubt. I certainly don't have any doubt on my horse's ability. I think the way the race is run, my fella is very, very quick out the gates. He Shanghai's out. It's how much intent the other riders have to either ride their horse to beat my horse, which I think would beat their horse as well. So it's really going to come down to upfront tempo, I think. Look, if something really wants to go mad, Jimmy may even take a trail. Rothfire's never had to do that in his career. He's pretty much led in all 6 of his runs. But maybe that's something we could consider. But I think that's the beauty, Terry, of going into any feature race. You've got top quality senior riders. They usually make the right decisions. Jimmy does. I think we can win.
Good luck in that, and good luck in the Stradbroke as well, mate. Can you give us a bit of a quick précis about Deep Image? It's going to be. It's a tough race. It's a great race, the Stradbroke.
Cracking race. Probably as good a version of the Stradbroke in unusual times that we've seen. You know, the Blue Army's up here in strength, and Gay and Adrian have got a, you know, fantastic life chance, even though it's drawn wide. I've got a horse called Deep Image in the race who, he's had 7 starts on the track for 4 wins, a second and a third, and over the track and distance, he's had 4 starts for 4 wins. Drawn a bit awkward. He's a front-running horse. He puts himself into the race. If you have something on him, you'll be in the race right up until the last 200. I can assure you of that. And I'm as happy as I could possibly be with him.
And mate, I can't say goodbye until getting an update on Dusty Tycoon. I've got to say, there's so many good trainers that give great video reports to all their owners, but I've got to say, I think you're at the top of the heap, mate. Your video reports are fantastic. And with Dusty Tycoon, particularly having the vet involved, and you give the owners a wonderful insight.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating at the guys, for the guys there with Dusty at the moment, but I'm confident we're going to come out the other side. She was going super. She'd run a fantastic third. She worked beautiful on the course proper here. And then, 48 hours later, we walked her out of a box and she put in a short one, like every 4th or 5th stride. So immediately we got the vets in, and quite simply, we felt that she'd strained a muscle high up in the shoulder. So we gave her an easy week here at the stable, lots of hand walking, lots of picking on the grass, just to let her get over it. She improved out of sight. I put her back under saddle on the track. Webby, who knows her really well, said, no, she's still not right, Rob. So got the vet back in. We said, look, we'll pop her out to Washpool Lodge, put her in a restricted adjustment yard so she can move herself around and give the muscle time to heal. I had the vet attend her again yesterday at Washpool to prepare her to come back into us. He's still not happy with her. So there's something there that we can't, like even the vet, as Julian Wilmore said to me, I palpate the leg, which means, fully extend the leg sideways, push it back, move it around, no pain at all. She's quite comfortable with it all. So that's a good sign. But when you trot her up, every 4th, 5th stride, she puts in a misstep. So there's something niggling up, whether it's nerve or whether it's some muscle damage. But we thought we'll take some x-rays of the shoulder just to see if everything is in working order. But his portable x-ray unit's not big enough. So we're going to pop her up to the University Clinic at Gatton, which is not too far from Washpool. They've got all the high-tech equipment that they can take a full shoulder x-ray, and we'll see if we can get to the bottom of what this problem is. Because I think if I can end on a positive note on something that's quite frustrating, is she's only 2. So she's got a whole future ahead of her. We've seen what she's capable of doing. She's had 2 fantastic wins in the city already. Her last run showed that she was coming back to somewhere near her best. So hang in there, chin up, keep a smile on your face, and we're sure she'll get through it.
Rob Heathcote, I hope you've got that big smile on your face, in particular with Rothfire, because Lizzie Gels and Mark Waugh and Daniel O'Sullivan and Ty England, they'll be watching closely. Who knows? Could be our miEverest horse in our barrier come October 17th. We thank you so much, Rob Heathcote, for your time, and good luck on the weekend.
Exciting times, Terry, and good to chat with you, mate.
Great to chat with you. Rob Heathcote. Don't forget, go to miEverest.com.au.